Good afternoon. This is Jessica from Twin Cities Media, and we're sitting in here with AfterTime for another session of our track by track. And so we're really excited to have these guys in here this afternoon. They're based out of kind of Rochester, Twin Cities area, just coming off of a show last night down at Opinion Brewing. So we're here today to talk about their newest EP, which came out a little bit earlier this year, called The World We've Lost. So why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves and what your role in the band is?
I'm Sarah Wolf, and I do the lead vocals.
I'm Brad Sturgis. I do rhythm guitar, and I also do the screams.
I'm AJ Blakesley, and I play the drums.
I am Chris Radke, and I play lead guitar.
Awesome. So for people listening who might not be familiar with you guys, why don't you tell us a little bit just about the band and how long you guys have been playing together, known each other, and then any members of the band who aren't here today that you want to introduce as well.
Patton, our bassist, is not here today. He's the only one that's missing. The rest of us are all here. As for the history of the band, it started in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Be 6 years ago this year in December, I believe. Started by me and Chris, and then we found AJ about a year and a half later. And then we kind of went through a couple different lineups. So then Sarah joined in 2014, and Patton later last year.
Great. So did you guys kind of start off doing shows down in Rochester and then have been playing up here, or what's that process kind of?
Early in the days, we kind of, when I joined, lead singer we had at the time, we both kind of came in at the same time, kind of. Brad and Chris had some sheet music down, kind of basic demos. And at that time, we were not ready for any shows. So the first kind of shows we did were in Byron.
Okay.
And it was real just practice. We didn't have a bassist, just real kind of getting our feet wet. And we played at this Christian venue in Byron called The River. No longer there. And we played 2 shows there. Horrible because they didn't have sound guys. They didn't know what they were doing. In the middle of songs, they'd cut out. It was so. I mean, yeah, that was our first kind of shows. But we have been playing a lot in Rochester. We used to play at the Wicked Moose, but that recently closed because of money issues. And now there's no more venues really left in Rochester except for the North Star Bar and Mayo Civic Center. But Mayo doesn't really do local shows, so now we're just spreading up to the cities a lot.
Yeah. Tell us just a little bit about the show last night. You guys were over at Opinion, and how was that?
It was really an interesting day because it was all local acts, members from the local metal scene, and there were close to a dozen bands, so it really was a good opportunity for networking with some of the other folks around here. We kind of had to improvise as far as the stages go because of some last minute things with the venue itself, but overall it went really well, fairly smoothly throughout the day, and we had a really fun time doing our set.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and just jump into talking a little bit about the EP. Like we said, the name of it is The World We've Lost, and it came out earlier this year. So the first track is the name of the EP as well, World We've Lost. So why don't you guys just tell us a little bit about this and just some of the behind the scenes, the writing, recording, all of that good stuff.
We've actually had the song itself written since not too long after I joined the band in 2014. Our first show that I did with the band was actually a Battle of the Bands that was taking place in Rochester, and one of the requirements was that we needed to have 4 original songs. And at the time, with our first EP that we had at the time, the 4th original song on there was a ballad, and we didn't really think that would be competitive. So we kind of had to scramble and write a new song in time for the show, and despite the time crunch, we put together World We've Lost, and that was the first time it got performed, was at that show, and it turned out really, really well, and we knew it was kind of a step up in writing from the previous songs, and so we've kind of had that song tucked in our back pocket since before we even started this project, and it's been a really big crowd pleaser too.
Awesome. So was it kind of a collaborative thing, on this track?
The song was actually started before the Fall of Light, the first EP. It was started long before that even came out because that one had been delayed so many times. So we had the basis of the song, but then, like she said, we had that show coming up where we needed another song. So we just kind of pushed and finished it really fast. I mean, it needed some tweaking afterwards. I don't think the first time we played it, there was no choir in it at all.
I don't think so.
And it ended up having a ton of choir at the end. So
Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about that choir element of your guys' music? If there's anything, just I mean, how that fits into the whole, the writing and the recording and yeah.
Yeah. So the genre that we play is called symphonic metal. And it's very, very large in Europe and really the rest of the world, except for the U.S. It's starting to catch on here, but some of the really well-known elements that make it what it is that you take what you know of metal, the heavy guitars, the drums, and you have typically female vocals. Sometimes there's male vocals. And then you add instrumentations and orchestrations, and generally you'll have choir involved too. Some bands use more choir than others. And, overall it just gives the music a very epic sound. Very bombastic is the word that we like to use.
Cinematic.
So, being that we want to really capture that style of music, we like writing for choir. And generally we can record our own demos when it comes to that. And then when it comes to the official recordings, we're hoping to work with a fully professional choir and get a really good sound.
Awesome. So do you sing? I think you're listed here as part of the choir. Do you sing in that as well, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I usually, for this album, I sang the soprano parts, and then we brought in, for this album, what we did is I sang soprano. We had another girl come in that did alto, and then Brad and I think just two other gentlemen took care of the tenor and bass parts. And then we just recorded multiple layers of those so that it sounded like a full choir.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, should we go ahead and take a listen to the first track, World We've Lost?
Let's do it.
So that was World We've Lost. That's the first track and also the name of the EP. So that very symphonic feel, which you guys mentioned, and kind of very epic and cinematic, and Sarah's vocals amazing, and the choir on that. So let's dive into the next track. This one is called Forge Your Destiny. And Chris, do you want to tell us a little bit about this one?
Yeah. So Forge Your Destiny was kind of a song I started writing all by myself. I didn't want these guys to have any part of it. It was my song. But I'm not as super neat when it comes to writing. So when I finally said, okay, guys, you can help me out, Brad's like, well, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. I'm like, oh. But the song's kind of close to me because, as the title says, it's Forge Your Destiny. It stems off of a core belief of mine that you have every power to control where your life goes. And so the chorus is, we all carry the strength to forge our own destinies. So it's a very, very human thing. We are all in complete control. Granted, there are, this and that can come up, but it's, in the long scheme of things, we've all got, the ability to control where we go, choose what we want to do.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of a strong thing for us too, because just as people, because the band is really, really important to us, and especially for like me and Brad, and some of us too who didn't complete the college because it's really, really expensive. Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, we have this job and this job, but the band is what we really want to do. And if we want to do that, that's what we can do. Very, very much forging our own destinies sort of thing.
Yeah, and to make that, when one of you writes a song, just kind of bringing that to everyone, and then how you all kind of take that and move it forward.
Yeah, I can give an example. The other day, like, Brad could run a riff to me that he wrote down, like a couple measure riff. He'd bring it to me and go, I need some drums right now. I go, okay, and I'll spend 20 minutes to an hour trying to find, like, sit there on my drum kit and trying to find drums I like, and then once I find that drums I like, I'll demo them, give it back to him, then he'll start working more on it, and then maybe Chris will join in and do some lead stuff, and yeah, we kind of just keep building on top of it and lengthening it until it builds more and more to this full song.
Yeah.
As a group, we're pretty open when it comes to musical ideas. Chris kind of kept Forge Your Destiny as his baby for a while, but overall, if any of us has, a melody we want to go off of, or we just start writing some orchestrations or something, we're really open to sharing that with the rest of the group so that we can, get excited about new songs, or if we need, an idea to kind of keep the momentum going. It's all really collaborative.
Yeah, very much so. It sounds like it. So tell me a little bit about, I know we were chatting earlier about, recording it. Some of it was done here, and then also working with a team that you have overseas, I think. So can you guys just tell us a little bit more about that?
I'll go. So the orchestration is done by Lucas Noble over in Austria, and he was actually, for the past, that's probably been about a year, he was in LA because he got accepted into a master class for composing. It was like 30 people in the entire world, and he got to go.
At Warner Brothers.
Yeah, he was recording at, I think, Warner Studio. So he's been doing that. So he's actually a really good friend of mine now. But he's got this just master's degree in composing, and he does this amazing work. So it was really fun to get to work with him on this, and he's doing our upcoming stuff too. We've gotten a few things back from him. We're really excited. And then, we worked with Jacob Hansen, who mixed like Epica. He did one of the Delanes. He does Amaranth, Diabolus Musica. And we're like, all right, this is the European style sound we want, so let's work with the Europeans, the one who know what style we're going for. So that's what we did. We sent him an email, and he responded back. Like, sent him an email, and I was like, oh, he's not going to respond to some small band from the U.S. But no, it was a couple hours later. He's like, yeah, when you guys want to start.
And we were actually his first American band, right, that we worked with, or no?
Lukey?
No, not Lukey, Jacob.
No, I don't think
We're
we
not?
were.
Okay,
I think we were Lukey's first American
Okay,
band.
Lukey's, yeah. We were Lukey's first American band he's worked with.
And Lukey himself also has a band of his own that he's a part of called Illuminata, which is along the same lines as our genre.
The fun thing about working with Lukey and Jacob Hansen is you have to send them messages at the middle of the night to 2 a.m. Otherwise, their email is buried by the time they get to their email to check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we were talking about, I mean, this kind of genre that you guys are doing, I mean, there's bands here that are doing it, but just that really big concentrated in Europe. So maybe tell us to just expand on that a little bit, other influences, and maybe even how you guys kind of yourselves came to discover that type of music and then ultimately, create your own in that genre.
All right.
You can start.
Back in early high school, I think I started listening to bands like Evanescence and Within Temptation. So they started being really big influences on us. Then I kind of branched out and found some other bands. And then when I met these guys, like they were more Chris liked Avenged Sevenfold. They do like Slipknot. Sarah has her own mix of things she listens to, and I introduced them to that because originally, AfterTime, we really didn't know what style we wanted to go to. We just knew we wanted to make music. It was going to be metal, and it's going to have a female singer. We didn't anticipate it going full orchestra, full choir, until we kind of all got into this style, and we're like, yeah, we want this to be as big and cinematic as we possibly can make it. So bands like Nightwish or Epica, Delane, they're all really big influences for me, especially. I don't know about these guys.
My influences, since I wasn't really very familiar with the genre prior to the band, come from more I've always been a fan of soundtrack music in general. So James Horner, John Williams, Hans Zimmer, and also video game music has been really inspirational to me. So, Nobu Uematsu, who did the Final Fantasy series, Koji Kondo, who did the Legend of Zelda series. So I really draw inspiration from more of the soundtrack side of things, and the rest of the guys kind of have more of the initial metal influence to bring it all together.
Yeah, me growing up, I was surrounded by drummers. My uncle and my cousin played drums, and so when I finally got my drum kit, I was sitting there playing drums. Joined high school band for trombone, and I loved trombone because in pep band we get to play fun songs. So when I joined up with these two, I was like, yeah, I want to still play drums the rest of my life, but still have that like orchestra in the back somewhere. So because I played pep band and it was very hyped and melodies, and so when I joined them, I still got to have my orchestral influences and my drum influences. And growing up, I would listen to a lot of Slipknot, so I kind of would drum along to Slipknot, and that's how I learned my style. I'm self-taught. I've only had 3 15-minute drum lessons. Wow. That was it. I've been drumming for 8 years now, so that's very cool. That's my influences.
We're lucky to have him. He's talented.
Very cool. That's such a wide range. I mean, some of the things you would expect, but then like the video games and soundtracks, I can definitely hear that, but very cool. Well, should we go ahead and take a listen to Forge Your Destiny, the second track off of the World We've Lost? So that was Forge Your Destiny, the second track off of the EP. And Chris, just throwing it back over to you, you had said at the beginning of that section that this was kind of your baby and kind of your brainchild. Mm-hmm. So the final product, hearing it, is it what you expected and what you kind of had envisioned?
Yeah, actually the song turned out very well compared to how I'd envisioned it. I really wanted the main vocal, the choir, the rough vocal choir trade-off for the choruses. And despite a couple of us being a little skeptical of how it would turn out, but I'm like, let me get it done. Let's get it done and get it to Lukey and see what he can work with it. And it turned out very well. I wouldn't have it any other way from how it turned out. So
you're happy with it?
I am very happy with it.
Good. That has to be a good feeling.
It is.
Awesome. Well, shifting gears, we're going to move into the third track here, which is called Reflection. So Sarah, do you want to give us a little bit of the background on this?
Yeah, so this is the ballad that's on the album, and the way it kind of came into being is Brad had just a couple of lines of lyrics that he had started, and he kind of showed them to me, and it looked like there could be some potential there, and I kind of took those and ran with it lyric-wise. We kind of worked together on the instrumentation and primarily the piano part. Piano plays a very big role in this song. It's just a very introspective piece, kind of questioning something that someone may have lost along the way in their life and trying to reconnect with that. And like the rest of our songs, we try to keep the overall theme vague enough so that, anybody can apply the lyrics to their own situation. But yeah, we were very happy with how this track came out. It starts very soft, very lyrical, and it kind of builds throughout the song, and it ends up, the guitars don't come in until, after the second chorus, and then it's just, everything is off the table at that point, and it's just a really emotional ending to the song, and it's a really nice piece. It's one of my favorites that we have so far.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, you had also, before we'll take a listen, because I'm excited to hear it, you had mentioned earlier that you had done some collaboration with some bands kind of similar to you guys over in Europe. So can you tell us what that was like and kind of how that even came to be?
Yeah, so the collaboration was with a band called Bare Infinity. Originally, they're based out of Greece, although the members are in other parts of Europe now. Brad was actually a big fan of the band for years, actually. They had their own EP that came out, I believe, in 2011.
I think so.
And so one of those tracks we ended up covering on our first album, that was The Passage. And so through wanting to do that and, reaching out to the band and coordinating how, we'd be able to do that cover, we got to know the members a lot more. And since that initial release, they'd been on hiatus, and they were just recently working on a new project when we were putting our first album together. And so as we got to know them better, I got the opportunity to be a guest vocalist on their new album. The track is called Orion's Light. And it was a really great experience because we got to get kind of a demo of the piece to start with and kind of an idea of how they wanted the vocals to go. And then they said, take this and run with it. Record as many different versions and variations as you can. And, they said they'd just pick and choose the different lines that they wanted to do. And they had me sing through the whole piece because they didn't know how they were going to split up, my vocals from their vocalist. And so the end product still ended up being kind of a surprise to me for, which version did they use and which, verse do I get to sing? And it's a very powerful, awesome piece. And I'm really happy that, we get to kind of strengthen the bond between us and them.
Very cool. Had you done anything like that before? Kind of like the guest vocaling or anything like that?
No, this was my first opportunity doing that, and it was a blast. It's really a great way to network with other bands and get to know kind of how their workflow goes and their writing style.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like that kind of, so was that before or after you guys had recorded this EP and the song Reflection?
It was shortly after that.
Okay.
Last year was kind of a busy year for all of us, but me especially because, we were putting this album together and I was doing this guest vocalist thing for Bare Infinity, all while planning my own wedding. So I think the day that I went into the studio to record my vocals for the Bare Infinity piece was, I think, within a month of the wedding day. So, there were nerves, but like taking that time to just be able to sing for that whole day was kind of a break from everything else. Yeah. And, then after all the hard work paid off, we got to, the wedding happened, and then a couple months later, our album came out, and then 2 months after that is when the Bare Infinity album came out. So
that was last
nice,
year?
Yeah, it was nice timing.
So an eventful year in all aspects.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and take a listen now to Reflection, the third track off of the EP.
Guiding me through the mist of oblivion, surrounded by a dark cloud of obscurity. I try to remember the face I knew so long ago. You are nothing but a distant, faded memory. Leading me on, I place my trust in you. Though I feel so hollow, I know not what I've left behind. My choices draw me forward, away from you, away from myself.
So that was Reflection, the third track off of the EP. Kind of that just really beautiful ballady, like you said. So just situated nicely on the EP there. So let's dive into the last track now, which is entitled Masquerade, parentheses, through the facade. So what can you guys, AJ, maybe tell us about this one?
So Masquerade, been with the band a long time, all the way pretty much since the beginning. And it was on our first EP. It was also, I don't know, again, it's been with us forever. And I joined the band with Chris and Brad. We had an original singer, which happened to be my sister. We used to have an acoustic kind of band, and we had a song called Faulty Piece. And we brought it into the band. Don't know whose idea it was, my sister's or Chris and Brad, but we wanted to metal it up and bring it into the band. So Chris and Brad had some guitars, had some heavy drums, we had some lyric change-ups, maybe some vocal line change-ups, and then it morphed into a heavier song, more lyrical changes. Then my sister left, Sarah came in. We changed the name to Masquerade through the facade. Did demos for it, more orchestrations, put it on our first EP, played it on shows, put it on our second EP, and yeah, I don't know, it's always just been a favorite for ours. I love playing it live. It's always going to be my favorite.
Just kind of one of those that has followed you guys since the beginning.
Oh yeah, and actually we see fans singing it along with us at shows, so they know it's the single. They've obviously heard it and they like it. So.
Yeah, between that song and World We've Lost, those are probably the two most popular ones when we play live. Actually, this song, we just completed a fundraiser online. We're going to do a music video for it too.
Okay.
With Jake Woodbridge is going to be directing that. But yeah, it's just a massive song that has followed us along for a while. So it'll be in our set list for a very long time.
So you guys kind of talked about, you had touched on, wanting to put it on this EP after having released it, just to kind of have a different, quality to the recording. So what did you do differently on this one that you weren't maybe able to do when you started?
Originally, so between our first two EPs is where we started working with the European people, which is where we got Lucas Noble. And we wanted to do a 4-song EP. We had 3 songs started, and we're like, all right, well, can we redo one of the old ones? And he wanted to, when he first kind of started this, I think he wanted to try and demo just to show us what he could do. So we gave him that song to do, and he gave it back to us. Like, yeah, this is definitely going on the album. So we kind of picked that one because it was a fan favorite, and we're like, yeah, we'll give it an upgrade, and it turned out really nice.
And with this kind of genre, you have the band on stage, and for the backtracks, you have a track playing in the background. Well, we had quality differences between the old album and the new one, so when we play these tracks live, you hear that big difference, and Masquerade being a big single it is, kind of wanted to have the same sound and impact, and even a bigger impact even, so it helped a lot putting it on the newest EP.
Yeah, the song became a lot more orchestral in its new version. After the second chorus, there's kind of a breakdown afterwards, and in the original version, it's really just AJ on his drums, and, very minimal guitars, and the strings are just kind of doing, whole notes and half notes. And when we gave it over to Lukey to work his magic, he totally revamped that whole area and, gave it this crazy string melody, and then it just kind of dies down, and there's this cello part that you hear, and it gives a whole different vibe, and just overall a lot more cinematic sounding. And, I still remember the first time we played the new version live, and it just had a whole new life breathed into it, I think, for all of us, because it had been around for so long. Songs can kind of get stale sometimes, and so having this new version of it just made us all fall in love with it all over again. And like AJ mentioned, it's a fan favorite, and we're so happy that can be the bridge between seeing where we've come from with the Fall of Light and where we are now with the World We've Lost album, and knowing that that's the kind of quality they can expect to hear going forward into new projects.
Absolutely. That must have kind of felt exciting to have, what started as just a acoustic guitar and drums, and then now to be this kind of very big, massive, fan favorite, as you guys put it.
Oh, yeah, when I was with my sister playing it acoustically, I'd play it like it was a metal song with the heavy drums, and it kind of fit, but you're missing a lot of frequencies there with the acoustic versus the drums, and it just didn't work. But yeah, I love dragging it into this band and just having it still with me. and it's a fun song to play live. I love playing it.
Yeah, do you think it was kind of strategic too to put it as the last track on the EP, or that just kind of seemed to be where it fit, or?
I think that's just kind of where it fit because
We had this-
World We've Lost naturally was going to be the single. And then we had the ballad, and then I'm like, okay, well, I'll write Forge Your Destiny. And then we had Masquerade. Though Masquerade was the first one we sent to Lukey. So we're like, well, we have these songs, and World We've Lost has to be first. Ballad probably shouldn't be second. So Forge Your Destiny went second, and then Masquerade at the end. So I think that's just
think-
kind of how it worked out.
I think it fits kind of well at the end too because it is really bombastic. It's also the longest song on the thing, and it's, it's a redone song. It's not really it sounds completely new, and whenever we present it, we present the new version of it. But it had been released before, so we felt like it should close out the thing. It's kind of this bonus track thing that we did. But
Do you guys close out sets with this one sometimes, or
we
just
usually
wherever?
we usually open with it actually.
Okay.
Well, we've done a little bit of both. The last few concerts we've done, we've used it as the opening piece, just because we brought back one of our older pieces with some new backing tracks, and that became the new closer. So, we're like, why not move Masquerade to the beginning now? And that's another great thing about the song is the versatility of it. It can make either an awesome show ender, or it can be just a huge bombastic beginning to the set list.
That
So,
big intro.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and take a listen to Masquerade, the final track off of the E EP.
Show me the monster you are. Show me things I've never seen before. Don't break your promises. I see through the facade. Show me the monster you are. Make me afraid of what I can't see in the dark. Don't break your promises. I see through. Show me the monster you are. Show me things I've never seen before.
So that was the last track, Masquerade, off of the EP from AfterTime. So again, it's called World We've Lost, and it came out earlier this year. So thank you guys for just telling us a little bit more about that and taking the time to share a little bit of the insights behind the EP. So why don't you tell us what we can expect next from you, just in terms of new music and...
yeah, we are currently writing our first full-length album. World We've Lost is actually the lead single for that, and we got, I don't know how many new songs we have in writing right now. We're thinking the album will be probably 12 tracks long, and two of the songs are going to be 9+ minutes, so it's going to run the full, we want to take up the full, whatever the CD can hold, time-wise. It's a huge project. It's a concept album. It's going to be bombastic, and it's going to showcase all of Sarah's vocal talents. It's going to have some screams, choirs, full orchestra. It's a huge project. But yeah, it's taken a little while because we're really trying to make sure the album really sticks in people's heads, and it's not going to be a couple great songs with a bunch of fillers. We're not going to stop at writing just the 12 songs. We're going to write 15 or 16, and then maybe weed out the less than spectacular ones. But yeah, we're hoping to start going to the studio for that probably sometime next year.
Great. So lots of new music we can look forward to from you guys in the coming months and next year. So we'll definitely stay tuned for that. And then what about shows coming up? We said, you guys just had one last night, but what else is on the books?
Yeah, so next Saturday, September 2nd, we are playing with September Morning at the Amsterdam. September 15th, we're playing with Green Death and Lords of the Trident, also at the Amsterdam. Sarah will be doing guest vocal.
Yeah, so I take vocal lessons from someone here in the Twin Cities who's been involved in bands herself, a couple of which have been along the same lines of our genre. Her name is Melissa Furlack, and her current band is a little less symphonic, a little more darker and heavier. It's called Plague of Stars, and although they've kind of been on a little bit of a hiatus, they are coming back to do a show with a band called Thor. They've also been around a long time. And I'm actually going to be doing a bit of a guest vocal spot with her on one of their songs for that show. So that will be on October 20th at the Minnesota Music Cafe.
Cool. So if people listened and are interested and want to come out and see you guys, where can people stay up to date on the shows, social media, and all of that fun stuff?
Yeah, you can find us on our social media page. Facebook, we're really active on, actually.
Just AfterTime.
AfterTime, Facebook. You can find us on Facebook. Literally, just type in AfterTime will pop up one of the first ones. But you can find us on Twitter. Also, do we have Instagram? We don't have MySpace. No MySpace. But we also have a website, aftertimeofficial.com. And we try to keep up on posting news there. All of our shows are already on there for future events. We also have posted, music video news and new T-shirt merch stuff.
And just to make it easier to find us, it's kind of a confusing thing for fans sometimes. AfterTime is one word, so that can help when you're searching for us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you again so much, you guys. This has been really fun to just hear about the album, and we're excited to stay up to date with everything that you guys have coming down the docket. So again, this has been a track-by-track session here at Twin Cities Media with AfterTime for their EP World We've Lost. So we'll definitely stay tuned to see what's next.